Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. It's been a while. I haven't been on YouTube and I didn't have any plans to come on YouTube for a while, but I'm here today because I wanted to talk about something that I've been meaning to do for my YouTube channel for a while, but I never had a chance to talk about it because of the limited time that I have. Because of recent events, I feel that this is the right time to talk about what I wanted to talk about, even though I have a backlog of um, videos that needs uploading. I felt that I couldn't wait to do this video because now is the right time that I talk about this. Today I wanted to talk about rape, and especially when it comes to childhood rape, as I have been a victim of rape, and for years and years growing up in the Gambia, I have lived with it and never felt confident to talk about it. But seeing recent events on social media, coming across a video about an 11-year-old that was raped in the Gambia, called for me to talk about this because I was ready to talk about this. It's just that I never found the time. But in the honor of this 11-year-old,
léegi nag mu jël suma loxo bi forcé ma si suuf mu tëddal ma bu ma tëddalee ma tëddalee
I wanted to speak up about my experience and what we can do as a society in the Gambia to address this issue, because this is a very big problem in our society and we don't usually talk about it, and this is because of the stigma, the shame, the victim blaming that all surrounds this issue. I feel very strong right now to speak about this because I haven't felt strong for a very long time dealing with my own experience, and thanks to God, with all the counseling and lots of support around me over the last, let's say, 3-4 years, has helped me to be strong enough today to come here and talk to you about the issues surrounding childhood rape, and not just childhood rape but rape in general. So as most of you know, in the Gambian community, that recently we had an 11-year-old who was violated sexually by an unknown male that they're still trying to find.
The alleged rapist approached 6 boys who happened to be a part of a junior football academy in KM Town in total disguise, pretending to be one of their new trainers, and called out to them. The oldest of them stood up, assuming that he was referring to him, but his target was set on the youngest amongst them, an 11-year-old young boy. He told the boy to come with him and assist him in transporting a few training essentials to the field. Innocent and trusting, he followed the alleged rapist and was led to an abandoned school building in Kanifing, where nothing less than absolute horror awaited him. The 11-year-old victim was forced to strip and was allegedly brutally raped on this very mattress.
My own personal experience of rape, it didn't just start with rape. I actually was molested a few years before I was actually raped, and these were by different people. Child molestation is when an adult would touch a child inappropriately, or they could ask the child to touch them inappropriately. And I experienced that. I cannot tell you exactly what age that was, but all I know is that it happened before the age of 7. So when I was molested, there was no sexual intercourse involved. It involved a neighbor of ours, and this neighbor was, his name is Saul, and he lived in a compound called Saukunda in my area. Also, there was another neighbor. He was basically living in our family home. He was renting out a place there, so he was a lodger. And I wouldn't mention his name because I have already told my parents, even my parents, I told them that I wouldn't mention the name of any person who has violated me during my childhood, who has passed away. He has passed away, and so that's the reason why I wouldn't mention his name, because he's not alive to come and defend himself if he wanted to. And so there is no point in me mentioning his name, but he was a lodger in our compound. And then there was another neighbor as well. He also passed away. He lived 2 houses away from my house, and he also was molesting me. So I had 3 male molest me. One was a lodger, and the 2 were neighbors in our neighborhood, Yusunjai Street in Sarakunda. After my experience with these people, obviously there was a lot of fear and a lot of threatening. Like, you don't tell anybody, because if you tell people, you're the one that they're going to blame. And so I believed that, and I grew up with that mentality. The first time I experienced rape was between the ages of 7 and 8, and I remember this clearly because it was just after I had gone through FGM, and I went to stay with family members in my family home in Brikama. And so that was the first time I experienced actual rape that involved intercourse. And this was by a very close family member. And the only reason why I'm not mentioning their name, my family already knows who this person is because I have told my mom and my dad. And because I have so much respect for my dad, and my dad suffers from heart problems, I wouldn't want him to stress any further. The most important thing is I told my father who this person was, and my father is very upset about what happened to me in the past, and he has acknowledged my pain, unlike so many parents whose children go through this and they would keep quiet about it. They don't want to speak about it because they feel ashamed. In fact, some people would even go as far as blaming the child or telling the child that they're imagining things. I have seen this happened around me. I have strangers contact me who have told their parents about their experiences, and they have watered it down and not really acknowledged the pain that these people have gone through. Most of these people are adults now, and so their parents are still not acknowledging their pain that they went through. I was very fortunate that I had one parent who was willing to say, hey, I'm here. Why didn't you tell me, all of this? But I will come to those in a bit. So my second experience with rape was with another person who basically he was from some village, and he came to study in my mother's home, and he also violated me sexually. This person's name was Sehu, and he was basically studying Arabic in the Arabic school that was very close to my home, and so my family accommodated him, and that is how he repaid my family. And then the last person to rape me during my childhood, this was Usman Kaur, who later on went on to rape another family member of mine. And so all these years I've kept it inside of me, and I felt ashamed. I felt guilt. I felt that it was my fault for a very long time, that I deserved it. I derailed myself. I punished myself, and that didn't help at all because it ended up with a lot of problems coming to my future later. And I didn't realize when I was growing up how this has affected me. But now looking back, I can see from the behaviors and everything that there was something wrong, but I didn't acknowledge it, and I didn't speak about it. So it hurt me a lot, and I acted out in other ways. So one of these ways that I acted was that I tried to commit suicide twice. And then there was a lot of times where I attempted to take my own life, and every time, and these were not because, oh, I think I was raped as a child. No, I would have a family problem with someone. Like when I was 17, I remember having an argument with a family member, and my reaction was I didn't want to be here anymore. And so that was not the reason why I wanted to kill myself, but because of my past trauma, this was now a trigger for me. So anything major that happens, it would trigger me to wanting to take my own life. And when I was 17 years old, thank God, a stranger found me on the train at Custom House, and I was taken off the train. I can't remember exactly what happened because I was unconscious. I took a lot of pills, and I promise you guys I'm not going to cry because I need to be strong to do this video. And so the only reason why I'm getting emotional is because I never got to see that man who found me and called the ambulances. I could hear his voice. I could hear he was calling for help, but I don't remember his face, and I don't know who he was. But it was his kindness that made me live that day. And it was his actions of getting help as soon as possible that saved my life that day. I was only 17 years old. So I went on to have counseling, and during my counseling, they would talk about, how I was feeling, and I always lied. I never told them what happened in my past. Because growing up in Gambia, sorry, I have to come back again. Like I said, this video is not about me. I'm just speaking about my experiences. But really and truly, the purpose of this video is to make awareness so that we can be aware of what is really happening to our children in the Gambia, and especially in Africa, where there's so much stigma around child sexual abuse and sexual abuse in general. So when I used to have counseling after I tried to commit suicide, because I was 17, so I had to go through counseling. So when I was going through the counseling, I would talk about anything but my experience of rape, because at this time I thought that really this was my fault, and that if I told an adult about it, that they would blame me for the what happened to me. So I had that mentality, and that mentality comes from my Gambian background. And so I didn't trust adults here in the UK, and I didn't know that here in the UK it was a different ball game when it comes to when children are abused. So I went through a long period of time without getting any help. You know, I was talking to the counselors, but I wasn't telling them what was really wrong. And nobody really asked me the right questions until 2012. I went to take my daughter to the GP, which is your local doctor here in the UK, general practitioner. So I went there and I took my daughter for a checkup. And this GP, he took a look at my daughter. He prescribed some medications that she needed at the time. And then he looked at me and he said, "Are you okay, Mom?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." At that time, I was suffering from domestic violence, but I didn't disclose that. So he looked at me. He said, "Come on, Aissatou, you don't look fine to me." And when he said that, we need to be strong, okay? There's happy stories behind it, yeah? So he said, "You're not okay. I can see that." And then this is the most amazing thing any human being has ever done for me. Instead of just sending me away or booking me another appointment, he picked up the phone and he spoke to the receptionist, and he said, "Can you please cancel my next patient and send them to Dr. I don't know who?" And he said, "We need to talk." He could just see from how I was not okay. But this was even nothing to do with the rape, but it just came from somebody really caring and really interested in knowing really what is bothering this woman. And that's when I told him, I said, I don't know where it came from, but because I knew this man cancelled and the next appointment after me, just so to give me that time to speak to me, I said, I owe him the truth. When I say I owe him the truth, that was when finally, at that time, it has been 26, I was like 26 years old at the time. So which means like about, let's say 20 years, I never had somebody really care about me enough to say, Aissatou, tell me what is really wrong with you. And that's when I said to him, instead of saying I was going through domestic violence, I said I was raped. I was molested. And he called his receptionist again and he said, cancel all my appointments. That was the first time at the age of 26 that I really opened up to somebody about my experience of rape. And then I started to get counseling. But even then, I didn't take it very seriously. Because when I go to counseling, I will talk about everything and anything but my rape experience, because I was still feeling ashamed. I was still feeling that it was my fault. And this went on and on until 2016. 2016 was what broke everything open. I used to run a chat group. It's a Tanzanian chat group. I was very interested in learning Swahili at the time. So my friend Pezzi said to me, we need to form a group to help you to learn Swahili. So we were doing that group. It was going on fine. I thought 2016 would be the best year of my life. I was not only learning Swahili, but I was also coaching these children. Now they are all in their 20s, but in 2016, these kids were like 15, 16. years old. And I was coaching them. They started to trust me. They started to come to me with their problems. They never asked me for money. All they asked was for my advice. So if one of the kids needed advice, they wouldn't come to the group necessarily. They would come and send me a message in private to say, they all call me mama or auntie. And they used to tell me what they were going through. And I used to advise them, even with things that they couldn't go to tell their parents, especially when, for example, one of them lost her virginity. And she came and asked me for advice. And I advised her just like her mother would. Because I knew that she couldn't go and speak to her mother. But I took on that role for these children. One day, there was a pedophile that went to an orphanage and snatched 2 little girls in Tanzania. And he was going around the country and making these children touch him. And he was taking pictures of them whilst they did it and was evading police. Somebody in the group chat took one of the pictures where these children were being abused and sent it in the group. When they sent it in the group, I was shocked. Can you imagine? I spent my whole life thinking that I was the only victim of rape, because that's one of the ways rape victims, especially from childhood, deal with their pain. They like to think that nobody else would go through this, just me. Because how can you imagine anybody else going through that pain? You don't. So you grow up thinking it's just you. But when I saw that picture, it was a trigger. I remember I was alone at home. My kids were in school that day. It was like a normal day. I smashed everything that was around me in my living room that day. The iron, boom, on the wall. My makeup bag that I had when I was getting my daughter ready for school, I was putting on my makeup. I took that, I smashed it, everything to pieces in my living room. The first feelings I had was guilt. I felt guilty because I said to myself, this is happening to other children. And you have not spoken about what happened to you. That means your abusers are going out there and doing it over and over again. And I felt that if they have done it to anybody, it's my fault. And then the guilt turned into anger. That's when I smashed everything around me. And then, thank God, there was a little bit of sense inside of me when I thought about ending it all, because I felt overwhelmed with the pain. So I wanted to die. I didn't want to leave. How can I leave knowing that maybe I have put other children at risk because of my silence? But then an angel came in my head. And the angel said, think about your children, I see. And luckily, because I have already been speaking to talking therapists, counseling, they gave me a card. It's a crisis card that they give you here. When you're feeling depressed or stressed, you can call that line to get help. So I called the crisis team. And I said, you need to help me. I need somebody to keep an eye on me because I don't trust myself right now. So they sent an ambulance. They sent an ambulance and I was taken to my local hospital. I was at the hospital and they asked me what I wanted. And I said, I need you to admit me. So I self-admitted myself in a psychiatrist hospital because I didn't trust myself that day. And because I have children, I didn't want to leave my children because that would have been very selfish of me. I didn't think about anybody else, not my parents, not God, not anybody. All I cared about was that I knew that I was overwhelmed, but I need to think about my children. So that's why I called for help that day. And I am not ashamed to say that I was in a mental hospital to save my life. And that is why I'm here today. And that was when the healing started. My first ex-husband found out, and like a typical narcissist, he used it against me and did some of the most disgusting things a human being can do to somebody that they once claimed to have loved. But that didn't stop me from going counseling. I went counseling with Serek. Here in Essex, they're the ones that are responsible for rape and incest counseling. So, luckily, the person that was counseling me was a British white lady, but fortunately, she had been to Gambia in the past. And so it was very easy to talk to her. So I did counseling with her for 3 months. And then she recognized that the rape that I've experienced was maybe the reason why I had a low self-esteem of myself, where I allowed abusive men to enter my life. And so she went on to refer me to another counseling session for domestic violence and abuse. And that one was even longer than even the rape. Every week for 7 months, I went counseling every Tuesday. And after the sessions with the counselor, I would go and sit with a group of women who were also suffering from abuse or have been through past traumas. That is why I am here today. That's how I got help in the end. But despite all of this, I still haven't told my family. And whenever my family heard that I tried to commit suicide and I was in hospital because I tried to commit suicide, I denied it. I would say it was for something else. I never admitted it because I was ashamed. But I'm not anymore because I'm here. And I'm here because I spoke to other people who listened to me, who were willing to give me their time, who believed me, who never judged me. The person who counseled me for my rape said that I didn't speak about my past experiences, and because that was my coping mechanism. And the fact that I thought it didn't happen to anybody else, that was also my coping mechanism. So finally, in 2019, there was that Tifa movement where people were coming out and speaking up about rape for the first time in the Gambia. And I was posting a lot. I was posting things like, I want to live in a society where my children will not fear going to any adult to say something was wrong with them. People didn't know why I was posting that. I was just saying it, but I never came out and said this actually happened to me. And thanks to Amira Fofana, she is very well known in the Gambia. Most of you that are Gambians will know about Amira Fofana. She did a post talking about her own rape experience, and she tagged me, and I was shocked because even though she was my friend on Facebook, we didn't know each other personally. So when she tagged me, I believe that was because she saw my post that I was in support of rape victims. But Amira didn't know why I was in support so much and very vocal about it. So I contacted her on Messenger and I asked for her number, and that's how me and Amira started talking, and I told her about my experience and how I thought how brave she was for coming out with her story. And she encouraged me, and gave me that courage, that extra push to then go and tell my family. So before I came on social media to explain my story, I saw that Amira was really abused, which she didn't deserve at all. Even if Amira didn't tell her family and came to social, it shouldn't have been a problem. But I thought, okay, because my dad is not well and how Gambians spread bad news really quickly, I decided, okay, I'm going to tell my parents. So I started writing this very long message on WhatsApp. explaining everything that was in my heart, because it would have been difficult for me to pick up the phone and tell my mom and then tell my dad and then tell my sisters and then tell people who are close to me before I come out on social media. So I just wrote it in one text and sent it to my family members. And my father responded with so much anger and so much empathy and so much guilt for what had happened to me. The best thing about my father is that when I told him what had happened, he never judged me. He never even asked me whether it's true or not. He believed me straight away. And that was the biggest strength and the biggest sign of love anybody has shown me. Unfortunately, my mother never spoke to me about it, even though I sent her the same exact message. And that is why I'm here. My mother, that doesn't make her a bad person, no. She just didn't speak about it because she doesn't know how to respond to something like that, because she grew up in a society where she was made to believe that, you know, when a child is raped or when there's rape, there's shame and there's stigma, and maybe even she could have felt guilty that she didn't protect me, so she never responded. To this day, my mother has never sat down with me and spoke about my experience, but my father has. So I am grateful for that. And I am one of the lucky ones. Because a lot of people go through this and their parents don't talk about it with them. A lot of parents want to brush it under the carpet because they feel it's a shame to them. And this is why we need to stop. Because that is why we will see cases like that poor 11-year-old boy who just recently got raped. If we don't stand up and talk about it and end the stigma, the shame that surrounds rape. And people who go on acting like this does not matter. People that think, oh, I don't have girl children, so I don't have to worry about this. Now look at what happened to this little boy. So it just goes to show you that it's not just the girls who go through this. Boys are going through it. And that's why we see a lot of alcoholics, a lot of drug addicts in Gambia and Africa as a whole. And we see them, they can't be normal. They have to always be high. Why? Because they've been violated. But society taught them not to speak up about it. And because society taught them not to speak up about it, they're damaged inside. And that's the damage we see. And then we say, oh, this person is messed up. Ki dudara, ki dafa halaku. When we don't know what they're really going through. And my heart breaks for that little boy. If you watch that video, I just had the chance to watch it for the first time. And I didn't even want to watch it. I only watched it because I wanted to get him help. And so because the person I was trying to get help from was English and doesn't understand Wolof, I had to watch that video so that I could translate it to her. And this was because Mam Linger Sar, who is one of my sisters on Facebook. I've never met this woman, but I love her like a sister because she's one of the people when I recognize that stood up to speak about rape and supporting rape victims. Especially in 2019, she was very vocal, and she is to this day. And she did a live video about this little boy's violation. And that is how I thought I must do something. So I know this lady who is a retired British educator. So I commented on Mam Lingersa's post that I will contact her who does counseling. And then when I called this woman today and asked her for her help and explained the situation to her and sent her the video clips. And then she said to me, I can't promise you anything, but I will do my best. I told her that would be more than enough for me, as long as you just listen to Mam Linger Sar. I've given Mam Linger her phone number not long ago so that Mam Linger can contact her and we can try and find some counseling for this boy. And I also am here for anybody who has been through rape, who has been through trauma, who has been through child abuse, to come out and talk. Don't feel ashamed. I don't feel ashamed. Not anymore. Because I was the one who was violated. I was the one that was wronged. I was only a child. I didn't know nothing. And to those of you that sit there and open your disgusting mouths when somebody gets raped, especially women or girls, you then go on to say, oh, maybe it was what they were wearing. Girls should be careful of what they were wearing. What the hell was I wearing at the age of seven years old that made my uncle to violate me? So let's stop that nonsense And just so I remind you of this, and it's written in the Quran. Before God asks women to cover up, he asks men to lower their gaze. It's written in the Quran that a man must lower their gaze first before a woman can cover up. And we have seen just with this little boy, 11 years old, he was not a woman and he still got violated. Was it because of what he was wearing? No. So let's stop this nonsense. And then the most shameful thing for me when I came out and finally told my story on Facebook was I have some men who went into my DM, inboxing me, telling me you need to remove this post because it doesn't look good on you. Why did they say that? Because they thought I was their potential wife. So they didn't want their potential wife to be seen as somebody who was raped. I'm not your potential wife. Go and find yourself a wife. I don't need a man who would be ashamed of my past pain. I need a man who understands my pain, who will hug me a little tighter because he knows that I have been through trauma. Not be ashamed of my past. I was a child, for God's sake. I was a child. And I was violated, and so many other people have been violated. So many people in the Gambia have been violated and haven't even told their stories. Do you guys know how many people go in your inbox to tell you, sister, I'm proud of you for speaking up. The same thing happened to me. So many women it has happened to. So it's not just me. It's not just Amira Fofana. It's not just Tifa. It's a lot and lot. It's not just this 11-year-old, but it's a lot. In fact, I can assure you that 50% of the male friends I have all been violated. Men don't usually talk about it. But they will say things like, yeah, man, when I was young, there was a lady who lived in my compound, an older lady that used to have sex with me when I was 9 years old or when I was 10 years old. I have had that stories from my male friends in the Gambia. That is not normal. And some of them are affected by it, but some people, especially some who are very sexually driven, they would ignore it and they will say, I had my fun. But they were children when these women slept with them that were much older than them. I swear to Allah, I have had this from Gambian men. With this past Ramadan, and I have had a lot of Gambian male friends who told me that they have been violated in the past. Well, they don't say it. Most of them don't even say violated. They just say, oh, I started having sex when I was 9 or 10, because there was an older lady in my compound or my family member who slept with me. These things are happening to not just girls, but boys. And then imagine the ones that get raped by other men, the boys that get raped by other men who don't even have that courage to come and talk about it. Because they will feel ashamed to talk about that. Because the ones who told me it was to do with women. So they felt because it's women, it's okay to talk about it. But can you imagine how many have been violated by men that have not spoken up about it and are messed up in the head, taking drugs to relieve their stress, their pain. And we see them and we say, ki dafa halaku, ki du dara, ki du dem fen. We don't even know why people are intoxicating themselves. They intoxicate themselves. Nobody intoxicates themselves without a reason. That people who intoxicate themselves are trying to numb their pain. That is why people intoxicate themselves, to numb their pain. So let's stop the judgment. Let's come together as one in Gambia, in Africa. I'm appealing to all African countries because at least in Europe here, they have addressed this situation. If this had happened to me in Europe, all those people that has violated me would have been in prison right now. But because they're scattered, one of them is my uncle and he is in Germany. And I didn't mention his name, like I said, is because I didn't want to put my dad through stress. But he's in Germany, so you know that my only family member who lives in Germany from my dad's side raped me. And you can go and show him this video. And guess what? He and the Seku who was at my mom's house, who was at my mom's family home, yeah, they were contacting me all this time, I didn't speak to them because I always ignore their call when I know it was them. When they change their numbers, they will contact me. And guess when they stopped contacting me? The first time they stopped contacting me was when I came and told my story on Facebook. That was the last day I heard from them. The only good thing about that was that Sehu Juf, he said sorry. When I said, you think you can call me and pretend that I forgot what happened, what you did to me? And he was my only rapist who admitted what he had done to me and said he was sorry. It doesn't make a difference, but it means a little bit of something to get that acknowledgement from him. And I did post that on my social media. And that was the last day he contacted me. And that was the last day I ever heard from my father's brother as well, that lives in Germany. Yeah? So we need to address this. And the reason why those people contacted me is because they wanted to make sure that the relationship was okay, to the point where I'm not going to feel I'm not going to out them. They didn't want me to out them, so that's why they were in contact with, constantly trying to contact me to try and keep my mouth shut. But it was only God that said that the time that I would come out would be when I'm 33, or was I 30, about 32, 33 years old at the time, 2019, when I first told my story. And when they saw that, that's when they stopped calling me, because it was traumatic to even receive phone calls from people who have violated you. That's another trauma, because imagine you're trying to forget about something, but that person is a reminder. But they don't get in contact with you to remind you. They're just getting in contact with you to be friendly to you so that you don't go and open your mouth. This is not everything. I cannot explain to you the trauma that this has cost me in my life. I cannot tell you the things that my past experience have cost me in my adult life. I cannot tell you everything in this one video. It's a lot. And it's sad. We need to address this issue. We can't keep quiet anymore, because if we don't speak up about this, so many other children's lives are going to be messed up. And guess what? It is our responsibility. Because when we die, God is going to ask us, what have we done to make any change in the world? The world is not about you coming and praying and then thinking God will just put you in Jannah. That's not the end of it all. We all have a purpose in this life, and we all have a responsibility. We make use of our lives, and that is not just to bow down and pray and hope everything is going to be okay. Prayer does not fix everything. So we need to address issues that are affecting society. We need to talk about when somebody is being violated. That's called humanity. You need to help each other. We need to make sure that bad things don't repeat themselves. That's another form of prayer. Another form of prayer is that we make sure that we leave our mark on this world. A good mark. What did you do to make sure that these people who have been through traumas in their life, what did you do about it? Did you share the video? Did you speak about it? Okay, even if you don't speak about it, not everybody can go online and speak up about rape or whatever. Some people don't have any experience, or they can't say anything. But there's a lot of things that we can do as a society to address these issues. Like teaching our children about stranger danger. And make awareness about rape. Let's start at schools. Let's talk about it from a young age so that children know their rights. Because I grew up in a society in Gambia where I was told that children are not believed. And I kept my mouth shut, and it affected me, and it affected my children, and it affected my life to this day. I have not fully recovered, and I don't even know whether I will fully recover from this. Because how can you ever recover from such a trauma? But Alhamdulillah, I feel better, a little bit better than I used to be. Because when I came out and told my story, it was like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. Not feeling that guilt anymore, that gave me a new sense of freedom. And not feeling like I should not talk about my experiences just to make other people comfortable. I'm sorry if this makes you uncomfortable, but I don't care. And maybe what happened to me because God knew that I will not keep my mouth shut. And I refuse to keep my mouth shut for the sake of my children, for the sake of my nieces, my nephews, and every other child out there. We need to talk about it. This is the time, Gambia. This is the time to talk. This is the time to make awareness. This is the time to teach our children. This is the time for the governments to come up with a system to protect children against these kinds of violations. This is the time to make laws that will stick. Here in the UK, even if you look at a picture of a naked child and the police caught you, you'll be registered on the sex offenders list. That means you will not be allowed to work with children or be around children. So we need to get the laws changed. We need to be strict on this. We need to let these rapists know that if they do things like this, there's a consequence for their behavior. We need to live in a society where we have to protect our children. So please, Gambia, please, Africa, I'm appealing to all of you and I'm appealing to our governments. Let's stop this abuse because people's lives are being destroyed. I'm one of the lucky ones. I can come here today and speak up about it. But there's millions of me that cannot even come up to speak up about their experiences, that have never spoken to anybody about it, and they're living in silent pain and they're dying inside slowly and slowly but surely. You get up and you hear nowadays, you get up and you hear that somebody has died in Gambia. You don't even know if they've taken some poison or something because they're trying to stop the pain. It's a very traumatic experience that needs serious addressing. Let's address this problem. Let's get rid of the stigma. Let's protect our children. It is not their fault. Any man who goes after a child, I don't care how old the child is, it's a violation. And on top of that, we have incest as well. People who go on to rape other children, even children raping other children because they were raped and so they think it's okay. And then they go on to rape their siblings, they go on to rape their cousins, they go on to do things because they learned it from somewhere. So we need to stop. Please, let's come together, Gambia. Let's come together, Africa, and address this issue. Let's stand up for our children. If we want a better tomorrow, these are the people that are going to look after our world tomorrow. These are our future generations are the ones that are going to lead the world someday tomorrow. So imagine if we have so much messed up children, they're the ones who are going to lead us tomorrow, because tomorrow we are not going to be able to do it. Well, me and you are going to be too old, and we're going to rely on these children to be the leaders of tomorrow. And if these leaders are messed up, our lives are going to be messed up. We cannot expect good from when we planted the seed bad. We cannot expect something good to come out of it. So, for the sake of our children, for the sake of our future, for the sake of our sanity, let's end the rape stigma. Let's end the shame surrounding this. And until we do that, we will see cases like this happening over and over and over and over again. Yesterday it was me. Today it's that 11-year-old boy. Tomorrow it could be your son or your daughter or your grandchild. So saying that, oh, because it hasn't happened to me, how do you even know? So many people are silent. You don't even know whether your daughter has been through it, but maybe because of your nasty attitude, they're not going to be comfortable to talk to you about it. And so they grew up messed up. I'm messed up. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think the same way other people think because of my past experience. In some way, it made me very, very kind towards other people. And because I've been through so much pain that I cannot bear to put other people in pain. And that's why, some of my kindness comes from my past experience. But then also it comes with the bad effect of it, where I'm not very stable, that up until 2016, any little thing would trigger me into wanting to die. I spent the first 33 years of my life hoping to die all the time. I was not scared of death. If it wasn't for the fact that I was born in an Islamic religion and I knew that suicide was against the Quran, I wouldn't be here. That was another thing that also kept me here. Because I only attempted to take my life twice. One time it was with a knife. The first one was with a bunch of pills. I took some Proplos and a bunch of paracetamols. And I was at work and I had this argument that I had with my cousin that was ringing in my head. And no, my cousin didn't cause me to want to kill myself. No, it was because of my past trauma that I was refusing to deal with. That was the trigger to that moment. And then so many other people like me are out there suffering and not knowing who to turn to. Nobody is really asking people the questions. In Gambia, we just ask people, hey, if they say they're fine, we just believe them. 99.9% of the time, if you ask me, how are you, I say I'm fine, but I'm not. So let's take the time to listen to other people properly, and let's be genuine when we ask people, how are you? Because we don't know so much that is going on in people's heads. Today, I was not supposed to come on YouTube because right now I have a lot. I'm going through School of Healthcare and Social Work right now. I have a lot of work. I just had to do an exam last week. And so I don't have time to do YouTube videos, but I made the sacrifice today to come and address this issue because I feel that this is the right time to speak up about this. I was going to put this video on hold because I was going to come out and speak about my experience anyway, but I hold it. But this, after seeing what this boy has been through, I cannot hold it anymore. And so instead of me today going and doing my essay, I'm here speaking to you guys. I wasn't planning to be here. There's so many videos out there that I need to edit because I do all my editing myself, that I need to edit, that I haven't even had the time to do that. But I'm here today because this topic is important, because this topic needs to be addressed, because it's about time we speak about this, and it's about time we get rid of the shame and the stigma and all the nastiness that comes with people getting raped. We all have a part to play in this, no matter how small, whether you share a post, whether you comment, and make sure your comments are not stupid. Like, oh, maybe it's because of what she was wearing. Oh, girls should be careful of what they're wearing. Don't make those stupid comments, please. If I see you, if you're my friend, I see you make that comment, you're not my friend anymore. Because that's the most backward thing that people can think about. And like I said, Allah says in the Quran, the men have to lower their gaze before they expect the women to put clothes on to cover themselves. So remember that. So that's it from me today. Thank you for listening to my story. Please share this video to make awareness. If you can't share it, at least give it a thumbs up so that YouTube can then make other people see this video so that we can spread the awareness. It's the least we can do for our future generation. It's the least we can do to protect our children. So please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up and share it so we can spread awareness about this. I don't do my YouTube videos for money. I wouldn't be here if it's for money because YouTube is not paying me. I'm just here because this situation needed to be addressed. And I put a lot of things on hold today that I could have been getting on with my university work that I had to put on hold just so that I can come here today and speak to you guys about this. Thank you for watching this video. And I hope to see you guys. I don't know when. I'm not going to promise anyone that I'm going to be on YouTube again for a while because my studies come first. But I appreciate that you have taken the time to watch this video. And so I give you thanks. Stay nice.
11 years.
Show us a video when you was depressed and sad, but no one knew.